I was able to kind of see the trend of which sound I was gravitating towards the most, which one I liked. I could play the songs as demos to friends and family and other colleagues, see what the reaction was. So I got to kind of do my own research, and I found that I really wanted to get into that funk.
Yeah, I was going to say, it definitely has more of like an upbeat. There's a lot of like, big dance around.
Yeah, it's disco funk dance for like now. And then the back half of the album slows down a bit, and it goes into kind of an experimental, mid-tempo, emotional kind of place. And there's definitely, I think, you know, inherently, I think I gravitate towards kind of over-the-top rock spirit, you know, and so I sing things with that edge still. I think that's part of who I am as an artist and as a singer, but there's more groove on this album. There's a little more of a pocket. And I think, as an artist, I think that after touring for a couple years and seeing my fan base and getting to know them more and getting to know what I loved performing on stage the most over those couple years, I realized that it's not so much about, look what I can do, but about like, this feels good, this song feels good, this groove feels good. And I think in that regard, I think I've grown up a little bit as a musician and as a singer.
So it's not always about proving that you can hit that super...
Look how high my note is in every song! Yeah, I mean, and you know, coming from American Idol, when you're in competition mode, that's a natural way to go, because you're like, look what I can do, let me win this thing.
Right.
But I think the transition on this album is that I've grown into who I am as an artist a lot more.
Now, you served as executive producer on this album. For some of the people watching at home who aren't as down with the music industry lingo, talk a little bit about what an executive producer actually does and the role that you sort of played in putting all this together. It's
quite basically that I got to be in creative control of the album. And I worked with an amazing team. I worked with RCA, an amazing label. My A&R, Rainey Hancock, is like an angel. She and I worked really closely on this, and my management as well. So it wasn't like I did everything, you know, but at the end of the day, it was my vision, and I kind of had the final say on stuff, and track listing, and I reached out to a couple different people particularly to work with. The label suggested some people, and at the end of the day, I picked the tracks that are on the album, and more than that, I got to co-write on most of the tracks on the album as well.
Great.
So I got really involved. I also got really involved in the album art. I worked with a friend of mine who has an upstarting company for graphic design and photography, and his name's Lee Cherry. He's amazing, old friend. He's been taking pictures of me for years, and now he's starting like a multimedia thing. So we worked on the album art together, which was really rewarding, and yeah, it's like my obsession, my baby.
So your fingerprint is basically all over
it, yeah.
Aspects of it. Awesome. Yeah. So talk a little bit about some of the people that you did work with, because there's some really awesome names on there. Dr. Luke, Nell Rogers, Pharrell Williams.
Yeah.
How did you get to work with them, and what was that collaborative process like?
Well, when I started the writing process, my first instinct was to kind of go a little bit darker. I was feeling a bit dark at the time. And my first album had been, you know, was very glam rock, and there were a couple darker songs, but all the imagery, my tour and everything was lots of feathers and glitter, and I kind of wanted to purposely go in a different direction. So I started writing some kind of moody emo stuff and working with a couple people, and they were good songs, but I would sit there and listen to them after we were done with demos and play them for friends, and it just wasn't clicking. So then I realized, I'm like, I want dance, I want funk, disco, you know. I was listening to a Daft Punk song, and I'm like, that's everything. That's electro, it's modern, but it's borrowing from classics, like dance classics, and I want to figure out how to fuse that for me. And I talked to the label about it, and that's when they suggested Pharrell. And I was like, well, yeah, if he'll work with me, I mean, of course I'll work with him, you know. And we got the green light. I flew to Miami, and I've told this story a lot, but I didn't feel cool enough to walk into the studio. I was pretty intimidated. I was like, it's freaking Pharrell, you know? Like,
right.
I'm such a fan, you know, and he's shaped pop music and hip-hop over the past decade like crazy. And I didn't know. I didn't know if he was going to be into what I did. I was like, okay, here we go. And we started talking about life and music and the industry and, you know, being different and kind of having to, like, march forward strongly in spite of certain obstacles. And that's how the song Trespassing was born.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, what about Dr. Luke? I mean, he's been all over the place in the past couple of years working with Kesha and Katy Perry.
Yeah.
How was that collaborative process?
Well, I mean, he did my first single on my last album, For Your Entertainment, the title track. And so I had gotten to know him through that process. And the way he produces things is just, he's got that special thing. He knows how to make an earworm. He knows how to put that special sonic sauce on things. And I have a lot of respect for his production. It's always top notch. And he's a cool guy. He's really, he's easy to talk to. He gets it. Yeah, I was excited to have him on board because with him, it's almost an insurance policy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you're such a visual performer. I mean, and sort of like, your look and your image has always been a piece of your puzzle since the beginning, since we first met you on Idol. When you're creating music, are you already thinking about videos and stage performances and how you're going to translate that into sort of a visual setting, or do you keep those two things separate all the time? Yeah,
I mean, it depends on the song, but there were definitely a handful of songs on this album that I immediately had like visual performance ideas for. The song Cuckoo, for example, there's so many literal visual references in the lyric that I can just see acting out on stage in a concert.
Sure.
Electric shock therapy and straitjackets and walking your walk like you don't give an F. That line in the song. We're going to walk that walk on stage. So yeah, I mean, I definitely see things that are literal. And then part of the challenge too is to take a song maybe that I don't have a literal interpretation for and to come up with something. And that's what I love about music videos. The two that I've filmed, one is already out, Better Than I Know Myself, and the new one, For Never Close Our Eyes, should be out very soon.
Okay.
Both of them were exercises in taking a pretty straightforward concept and turning it on its side and trying to figure out kind of a twist for it, which I love doing that as an artist. I find it really, it's a good challenge, and I find it makes people think, and I like that. I like being able to do that.
We actually got a lot of questions about Never Close Our Eyes and sort of what the concept of the video is going to be.
Well, I can't
Don't
tell
want you to give everything away.
Yeah, I can't give any.
A little teaser?
I don't know, I'm trying to think of what I can give away. It's a little... No, I'm not going to give it away.
Nothing?
I'm not going to give it away.
We were
No,
so close.
it's a surprise.
All right.
It's a surprise.
Well, when do you think it's going to be out? How long do we have to wait to see it?
Soon.
Soon.
I don't have a date yet, but I'm guessing in the next couple of weeks.
Soon.
Yeah.
You're
The video is shot and it's edited,
Okay.
but now it's all the post that's
Right.
being taken. We have some special effects we're adding, so that's
Gotcha.
exciting. Yeah.
Okay, special effects. That's
Yep,
good.
Yep. It's a
Starts
little.
the
There's
brain
a.
thinking
Okay,
a
here
little
I'll
bit.
tell you a couple things. There's a
you'd
little.
come around.
There's a little sci-fi energy to it. There's a
Okay.
little like kind of. It's very cinematic. It was inspired by a couple different films, and that's it. That's all I'm going to give you.
Cinematic films. The brain's already working.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're very looking forward to seeing it. So
Yeah.
we'll just.
It was
bide
a
our
fun
time until
shoot.
then.
We did it in one day, and it was great. It went really well. The director's Dory Oskowitz, and he's awesome. So I'm looking forward to it.
Great. One thing that we do have some dates for are your shows with Queen that are coming up this summer
Yeah.
in July. Talk about that. I mean, like, you've been a very vocal fan of theirs for a long time. You played with them on Idol back in the day. So how did this all come together, and how psyched are you to be on stage with Queen?
I'm just like, I'm so honored. I still am like, I can't believe they asked me to do this. I'm still a little like gagged about it. But they, when we did about 4 or 5 months ago, I did is that when it was? I don't have any concept of time anymore, by the way, so I'm just going to guess. The European Music Awards for MTV.
Right.
Sometime last year, I forget the day. They asked me to come and do like a medley of songs because they were getting like a big generation award, and I was floored then when they asked me to do that. And I flew to London. We had 1 day of rehearsal, and we had another day of sound check at the venue, and we did the performance, and it just felt so natural, and it was so easy with them. The chemistry is definitely there. They're very laid back, which I love, and it was just cool. It felt good, and it felt very positive and good energy, and
Yeah.
the audience loved it.
Yeah,
so,
they're obviously big fans of yours as
yeah,
well.
it was,
They seem very excited
and it's
about working
it's
with you, too.
Queen, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, Freddie Mercury is definitely an idol of mine, both as a singer and a songwriter and a showman. You know, he's somebody that I've definitely been inspired by. Someone like him, if you look at his legacy with Queen, that was my way into American Idol. I auditioned with Bohemian Rhapsody, and I picked that song to try to allow the judges to understand what I would bring to the table, you know, and to try to give myself like almost like permission to be there.
Sure.
Because I am kind of a throwback in some ways. So, and it was hard for Simon at first. He was like, theatrical.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I just sang Bohemian Rhapsody, dude.
Right. How can you not be theatrical with Bohemian
But
Rhapsody?
yeah, I mean, I think this summer is going to be, it's going to be a challenge because there's some of the songs I don't know inside out yet. But I think I'll learn a lot from it. And I think it's going to be fun.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. We're very much looking forward to that. We're also looking forward to seeing you on the road, solo.
Yeah.
One of the first questions that we got from everyone is, when is Adam coming to Canada or Turkey or London? So
if I knew, I would be able to tell you, but I had nothing. You know, I always find it very funny. I get a lot of questions on Twitter, and a lot of the questions are basically asking me to predict the frickin' future. And I'm like, I don't know yet, you know. I wish I did, but... And, you know, believe me, if I knew these things, my mind could be a little bit more at ease, too. But, you know, I'll definitely tour. Touring, I love performing live. It's, you know, this album was created and written with that in the back of my head the whole time. I was always like, how will this translate live? Will this be able to be arranged with an electric, you know, band setup or an acoustic thing? Or, you know, how is this going to kind of live its life? So every song is a song that can be performed in a number of different ways. And I don't know what the tour is going to be yet, but I have a couple ideas for things on tour and the general vibe.
Okay.
Right now, actually, for a lot of the live performances, what's been really exciting is taking these songs, which have a lot of electronic production, and actually stripping back the electronic, making them organic again, and then adding a little of the electronic kind of to spice it up on top. So it's kind of like revamping them in a way for live, and it feels great. It feels really great. It's almost like taking the initial inspiration for the grooves and the style and making it that specifically. You know, taking it back in time and then pushing fast forward.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know that's a little existential for this interview, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, well, we're very looking forward to seeing you on the road. We will just keep watching the tour dates.
Yeah. I mean, it'll happen. I don't exactly know when. I mean, I think my goal in talking with my management is we really want to take advantage of as many opportunities to promote the album. I really want to share it with people and make people aware that it's out and get people to listen to it.
Yeah.
You know?
And you have a lot of things coming up. I mean, you did Good Morning America today. You have American Idol on Thursday.
Yeah.
What are some other things that you have going on?
At the end of this month, the last 2 weeks of this month, I'm going to a lot of different radio stations and doing radio concerts. And that'll be great because I'll be sharing the bill with other acts. So hopefully that will kind of introduce me to some new people. And I'm excited to see some of those other acts too. I think they'll be good. And yeah, and that's the biggest challenge at this point, is just to make sure that people know I have an album out. And like I said, I believe so much in the music on this album, and I'm relying on that and only that really to promote it. I think it does speak for itself. I think it's that strong. So press play and get in. That's my motto.
Excellent. Trespassing out tomorrow.
Yeah.
So so while we wait until wait to get those in our inboxes, let's talk about some Twitter questions. We have thousands of questions that have come in.
Sure.
And going to put you on the spot here with one from Respect the GB, who says, this is funny, where did you do most of the writing for your album? At home, in the studio, or a dark, seedy bar underground?
Right. In the studio. That's how a lot of the writing went for me. I know some writers do a lot of their own time. For me, my best writing experiences were very team-oriented. I like getting in the room with one or two other writers and a producer and just kind of freestyling and jamming and letting it just kind of develop organically. A lot of the times it's like there's like a beat or there's a chord progression going on, and then you can kind of start humming like a groove and a melody into it, and then the words kind of just come. And it's like, a game of tennis. You're hitting the ball back and forth with the other writer.
Right.
And it's really fun to work that way. Because then, and the best ones were situations where ego is checked at the door. It's not about that. It's about just getting a good song together and coming up with great ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know after you've finished writing a song and you're recording it, it's like, yes, this is the one that's going to be on the album, this is a single, or is it only in